Whether you're thinking about quitting your job, starting a side hustle, or just curious about the realities of being your own boss, this podcast explores the possibilities of being unemployed for a living. Welcome back to another episode of Unemployed for a Living. I am Ken, and look who's
Cory.
back. I'm back. Cory. He is back after, taking a week off to have some fun, do a cool event. Shout out to Mary McQueen, who joined me last week. That was a great show. If you didn't watch it, go back and click on the last episode. Great insights on being kind of a lifelong side hustle.
While I was gone, this seat, Mary was keeping warm for me, and this side of the podcast was still the most entertaining part. She did very well. These lights are horrible in here. I'm going to shut that back off.
She is, and I apologize. I'm getting, I've been fighting a cold for the last 3 or 4 days. I'm kind of at the end, but still have that sniffly. I'm going to try not to sniffle into the mic and right there as I started to laugh.
To lean away.
I was getting all coffee here. So I'm going to try to contain that. But, Cory, you were off last week because you had a big, reseller meetup event that you were the host for. How'd that go for you?
That went really well. It went really well. I couldn't have asked for it to go better. So we did good, and we met a lot of new people, made some new friends. We actually helped one of them do a live show, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about, is live selling.
Yes.
We helped one of them do their very first show last night. So it was a lot of fun. So lots of new friends.
Meet lots of people that are doing side hustles and that are self-employed and are unemployed for a living, if you will. Very, very cool. If you have a chance out there to go to a meetup where you can meet the like-minded people. And I know during your event, you had the meeting of the minds, kind of like little seminars where people from different areas of at least the reselling side of side hustles spoke and, got some great insights about that. So
yeah, it was a good event.
But welcome back
to
the show this week. Good to have you over there. Not as not as good as Mary. Attractive to look at, I look over to that side of the screen. I'm like,
I always thought of myself as the eye candy of this show. I agree. Mary had me beat, but I wasn't here with Mary, so that's okay.
Man, can you imagine that show? Cory and Mary. Man, you guys
Mary
would be able to quit staring at the screen.
She held her own, though. I'll say with Ken, to talk as much as Mary did, she held her own. She did really well. Like, I was impressed. It was a good show.
She did, yeah. So go back and check out that last episode. We would appreciate it. And as always, when you're over there, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Hit a thumbs up. Give us a comment. Let us know that you're here, and we appreciate it. But Cory, you were talking. We talk each week about different side hustles or different avenues that one can go down, whether either as a side income or to maybe be self-employed and not have to work for somebody else. And one of the things that we both do in our businesses or whatever is live selling. You see a lot of shows, a lot of information out there these days on the live selling platforms, which they are numerous. Some of the ones that you hear the buzz. It is. It's all the cool kids are doing it.
Yeah.
There's, Whatnot, and there's the district platform that you can set up your own marketplace within district.
Posh.
eBay is doing live.
Poshmark
is doing live. There's a number of different avenues, but we thought we might explore because you hear so much information about it and everybody's, hyped and all of the social media channels are talking about live selling. We thought we would look at it as, is live selling a good side hustle? Can it be?
I guess first, if you're not familiar with the reselling world, live selling, you might not even know what it is. But so picture you become the auctioneer. You're on the screen like we are right now. You hold up a pair of glasses or whatever you're selling, and these bifocals that let Cory see because he's blind as a bat.
Yes.
We're going to start these at $1. Everybody go bid. And for 15 seconds or 20 seconds or however long you run them,
Yeah.
people just bid on them. And when they're done, you ship it to them. That's live selling kind of in a nutshell. And it has kind of become the new exciting thing in the reseller world. A lot of people are doing it. And I think it's gotten kind of a bad rap off the start, because when something's new and something's kind of undefined yet, there's not a lot of rules. You get a lot of shysters in there, scammy people doing bad things.
True. Yes.
But there's a good side to it too. So
yeah, definitely. And it is a very social sort of a platform. You are live, you are interacting, you get that instant as a buyer, that instant gratification of bidding on something, just like a live auction would be if you went out, in your town, if you have live auctioneers that are, pitching their wares.
Get that bidding rival that you just don't want him to have it.
Yes, exactly. I was thinking when you were holding up that you could also buy a cool Beavis and Butthead t-shirt from somebody on a live sale.
You couldn't.
You couldn't?
I already bought it and I'm not giving it up.
But so, in a nutshell, that's what live selling is. It's live selling items that you have, whether they're items for around the house, whether they're items that you go out and source at yard sales and garage sales, flea markets. A lot of people do the retail arbitrage sort of thing, selling snacks and health and beauty aids and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you can sell pretty much anything that's legal to sell that you're willing to ship. You could sell pretty much anything.
Exactly.
If let's say we put the money of the side hustle aside, or the full-time thing, whatever. If you're going to do live selling and you put the money aside, and that's not an issue yet, what do you think the difficulty level of doing live selling? Like, how hard is it to do, like, the process and getting set up and running your first show?
I think that there's a learning curve to any platform. I think overall it is easier as far as the listing of your items. If you're coming from like a static listing platform, like if you list on eBay or you list on Poshmark or Mercari or one of these things where you're taking pictures, you're putting in a full description of everything, because you have to try to describe in words the condition, the everything of an item. Where on the
you don't have to do it well. That's the one thing I like about it, is literally if you have a phone, you could click the button and go live and hold up, the glasses and say, these are glasses that are about as wide as my hand, and they go behind your ears and in front of your eyes. And that's your description. Like, you don't have to be, matter of fact, some of the goofy descriptions that are just not super descriptive, just be yourself, are the ones that sell better.
Yes.
So in terms of actually doing it, I don't think it's a difficult thing to start, but there is, like you said, there is a learning curve. I think the most difficult thing for most people is like the same thing that's most difficult for most people with reselling on all the other platforms. I think shipping's intimidating for people.
It is. It is probably one of the hardest elements of this business to learn, to really understand how something's going to ship, what the weights, what multiple purchases, how that affects the
it's also your biggest opportunity to lose money if you're doing it poorly.
Yes. And I've been there, done that. Some of my first live selling shows, in the way that you can set up the shipping, I've taken a bath on it. But you know what I did? That was the only time I did it. I adjusted, I learned, I said, okay, wow, that didn't work. I tried to give the buyers a better shipping rate, a better thing. But on the back end, I ended up taking a bath, and I learned from that. And if you don't learn from that, then, well, that's on you. Yeah. But I think overall I think another thing in live selling that is difficult for a lot of people is that social aspect of
this camera.
Maybe. Exactly. They clam up. They don't want to be online. They're nervous. They don't want people to see them. They don't have the right personality or the right temperament to be a live seller. Because not only, you have to convince somebody that the item that you're holding up and that you're showing, that they can't live without this item another minute. They have to swipe, and they
There's
have
a
to
lot
buy
of
that.
there are a lot of tips to get past that camera shy thing that you can learn and you could pick up.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things for me when I started recording videos was the idea in my head that hundreds of people are going to watch this. And it didn't take long to realize that no, only 2 people watched it because you're just not good on camera, but also that when you're recording it, it's not like public speaking. You're not standing in front of those 100 people. You're in a room by yourself.
Yes.
So when I first started recording videos for a course, like we did online courses, I used to tape a picture of a friend of mine like on the wall behind me where I was recording, and I just pretend I was talking to him because it's just you in a room.
Okay. Yes.
And that made it so much easier to kind of come out of my shell. And I was just talking to Russell. It was easy. He was on the wall.
Shout out to Russell.
Like fake Russell.
Way to bring Cory out of his shell, Russell. But you can do shows where you're not on camera. You can have the camera facing, the back, and you're just showing your hands, just showing the product. So there are different ways, but difficulty level, I don't think that it's difficult. It depends on your personality. And as with any sort of business, whether you go back to the picking up the pet waste or doing screens, you got to learn. You got to take the time to learn the interface, and how to input items, how to ship them, how to start a show. But I don't think that it's overly difficult.
No. And I think we both know at least a couple of people that are about as socially introverted as you can get, that do very well on camera doing live sales because they're just in a room by themselves, and that's a different experience than being with people. So I think difficulty wise, I think you're right. I think it's very low level of difficulty, slight learning curve to get into it, but difficulty I don't think hard.
You're not looking at an audience, but there is an audience there because there's a live chat that you can interact with, that people can ask questions about the item while you're setting up, while you're getting ready to run. So not a difficult thing to start.
No.
To get into. It's download an app and start. You can Google anything. How do I do this? Or most of the platforms have some sort of an online resource where you can watch videos, or you can figure out what to set out. Which then kind of goes, after you've decided to do that, some of our questions as we deep dive into these things is, what do you need to run a show? What kind of startup monies does it take, and what sort of experience do you need? As far as equipment,
just your phone.
You can do everything from just a phone.
Yep. And startup money wise, I don't think you need any. Like I could see like 6 things around me that I could start a live show right now and sell.
Yes. Yeah. Things from around the house, things that, you don't have to go out. Now, you're quickly going to go through the things in your house, unless you're a hoarder, or unless you just have so much stuff out there that
if you're going to do it for a side hustle, you'll have to figure out some inventory acquisition of some kind.
Yes.
It could just be garage sales. It could be thrift stores. It could be, donations from friends, however you could get items.
Exactly. And you can put, just like said, Cory had said earlier, anything that you're willing to ship, and that is legal. You're not, allowed to sell
the Grinch hat.
You could.
We just put that right up there. $1. Who give me 2? Who give me 2?
What are you going to do your auction? I got a $1 bid now, 2 now, 2.
You do that way better than I do.
2, 2, 2 and a quarter, 2 and a quarter, 2 and a half, 75. You don't have to auction like that, though. You don't. You don't. It's not that live auctioning where you're taking as people will on the app that you're using. People will swipe, and that's how the buyers buy your items. Is they swipe. If I swipe, it starts at $1, and I swipe, and then Cory swipes, it's $2, and then $3, and it just keeps going.
Like the dating apps, like you have to swipe right on the button. Like I want that. You swipe right.
Yes, I want that. It's like a dating app, want that.
But for items.
But there's no swipe left. There is no swipe left either one.
No, you swipe up to get rid of the show.
Oh yeah, there you go. Go to the next guy. selling his junk. Um, so startup money could be potentially free if you
Yeah,
have enough stuff around your house.
almost
Um,
certainly.
if it's something that you like to do and you see that it's, you are going to spend whatever money on whatever inventory. The one thing that I will say about live selling is, as with any type of selling, whether you're a big retail establishment or whatever, it's the money is when you buy the item. You have, for live selling, you have
Or
to buy
acquire
the
it.
items,
You don't have to buy it.
right, or acquire it. Yeah. Oh, if you can get stuff for free, hell yeah,
Yeah.
then it's all profit at that point. Um, but if you are buying stuff, it is buying the items at a good price so that you can make a profit on them, within the live selling
Yeah.
arena.
Now,
Because things,
I guess that's a good point. And where I've seen live selling work the best, I know there's other methods and there's other people doing it very successfully, but where I've personally seen it work the best
yeah,
is when you're already sourcing items because you're reselling or whatever,
yeah,
and you have a set of items you sell on a different platform, and then you have a set of items that go to live selling. So if you're
yes,
already sourcing and gathering items, this is a good, I guess, side hustle to reselling in a different method because you're
yes,
already bringing in a lot of inventory.
exactly. And I like to, well, I'll bring up a point about that later. Um, but yeah, startup monies, what sort of experience does one need? Corey, what would you say an experience level of somebody, if they were looking at this and saying, "Oh, I see all of this stuff about live selling, I want to get into that." What would they need to know
I think
or
the
not?
first thing I would tell, well, if just say one of my kids asked me, "Hey, I want to go do this for a couple extra bucks a month or something."
Yeah,
I think the first thing I would tell them to do is go find some little trinket things. Go get your Flippy Award or whatever, something
yeah,
around your house, and ship 5 or 6 things to different friends. Figure out how to box something up and ship it, and get an idea of what those cost. And when you've done that, then I
mhm,
don't I don't think you need any more experience than that. I think you get on the app, you learn the buttons,
yeah,
and you just commit to it and do it, and just be okay with your first sale being garbage. It's just like it's just
yeah,
like doing a YouTube channel. You hit record and just be okay with that first video being trash.
yeah,
Because once you do your first show, then you know how the buttons work, you know how to ship items. There's really nothing else to it. So I think you
yeah,
can get the experience in a 24-hour period if you want.
yeah. Um, I agree. It doesn't take a lot of once you've kind of worked through and learned the app and doing a private show. A lot of the platforms have an opportunity to do a private show where
Yep.
you can work through the buttons and you could
But
sell
nobody else
stuff
can see
on
it.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just you on
And
there with some friends that you invited, and
I would say platform choice can make or break as far as your first show and learning the buttons and just getting in and having a good first show or second show. I'd say platform choice plays into that a lot too. Like
agreed.
do you have a social following? Do you have the right items for that
That's
platform? So I think choosing the
that,
right platform is something you need to look at and think about before hitting the live button.
and that's one of the big things that you kind of brought up there is, do you already have a social media following? And that's
Most people
one of the
don't.
things where we talked about, can this be a good side hustle if you just wanted to start today? If
Yep.
you have now, most everybody has a social media following. Now that might just be your Facebook page and that it's your family and friends and people you went to high school with, and you kind of build on that. And other people have a much larger, that they make content for social media,
Yep.
whether it would be on a
Like
TikTok or
this.
an Instagram, a YouTube channel. And if you have that following, and the larger that following, the more support that you can gain, to when you do start your first shows. The thing that
Keep
I
in
will
mind
say a lot of time,
that's a temporary following. You have to keep that in
It
mind.
is.
If you're gonna sell to your audience and you have a social following, that will fatigue at a certain point. Like they're gonna
Yes.
support you. They're gonna support you because they watch your content. But
Yeah.
that eventually those people are gonna be like, okay, the return on investment here of just supporting Ken every week and just giving him
Yeah.
money because I'm supporting him, that will fatigue because they
Which,
don't really want the items most times in that
yeah,
case.
I'm not
So that
opposed to somebody that just wants to come and buy from me every week just to
I'm not
support me.
either.
That's,
I'm not either.
but
I
I
want
guess
that.
that's one of the points and one of the goals. And I like that you said that, Corey, is you're going to some of your first shows, if you have a social media following, are going to be better shows. You're going to get those people that come in and support, and you're going to get people that
Mhm.
are going to buy stuff, as long as you're just not selling complete junk that nobody wants. If you
Yeah.
have decent items and you start them at a decent price, people are going to buy them. But yeah, quickly after, one, two, three, four shows, unless you're like have a good outgoing personality and you're good at the selling and whatever, and you'll figure that out, right away when you're doing it.
Yeah.
I will also say don't get discouraged, because there's a lot of people that will start this
Oh,
and
you're gonna start at the top of the ski slope and very
yeah,
quickly go like this if you're bringing
yes,
a social following. If you're going the other way, if you're coming in with no social following, it grows like any other business. You start at the bottom and you grow up. With a social
yeah.
following, you start at the top and you dip and then come back up
I like that
because of that.
analogy.
And so be prepared. Either you're gonna hit that show after you first start because you have that
Yeah,
following, or you're gonna hit the show in the beginning and every show will
yeah,
get better. But you're gonna have the crap show. And
yes,
the first crap show I had was our third show, and it was
okay,
horrible. We ran 60 items and we sold 3 to the same person who just simply felt sorry for us. And
yeah. The
we
the pity
almost
buy.
didn't do another show. Like it's just it takes a lot. The rejection of it takes a lot out of you. So
It does.
that's hard when you have a bad show. So you got to be prepared for it.
But any successful business
It's going to have something
is,
hard.
like we talked these on, this, you're going to start at the bottom and go up if you have no social following. If you just decided today, hey, I want to try live selling as a side hustle, I want to make a little extra money on the side, and you're starting from that kind of ground zero, uh, a lot of that goes into, with any business, the marketing of it as well. Getting it
Yeah.
out there. If you downloaded the app and you found items around your house, or you even sourced for it and you went on live and just started a show, it's probably not going to go well. It's
Well,
probably
I
not
think
many people are
platform
going to
plays a
show
part
up.
in I think you're
Well,
right, but I think platform plays a part in that in a big way because there's what I'm seeing out there, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's kind of two kinds of platform when it comes to live selling.
yeah,
There's the massive platform, think eBay. Like there's that
yeah,
massive platform with millions of people on it or hundreds of thousands of people on it. And you're going to go jump into that sea of people and sell an item and try to build people to come to your show over time. So, but
yeah,
when you first jump in, it's like fishing in the ocean. Like it's going to take a while for people to even know that your bait's in the water. It's a big ocean.
exactly.
And then there's the other kind of platform where someone who has a social following or a platform that is marketing to bring people in just to that platform.
Yeah,
So when you come in, you have a pre-built audience of
yes,
people that go to every show because you're not selling a set of earbuds and a dolphin brass thing necessarily. You're selling a certain type of item. Like maybe you're selling all shirts on that platform.
yeah,
So people are more likely to hit every show because every show is selling shirts. So there's two
yeah.
kinds of platforms. And I think which one you go to will really determine what your first
It
show is like. It's
it does for
counterintuitive, but
sure
the smaller platforms are way better for you for your first shows.
to get started.
The
Well,
larger
okay,
platforms are harder.
when you talk about that, with depending on the platform, and I know there's differences between, like, say, Whatnot is one of the big live selling
Yep.
platforms, and then there's
Probably the biggest.
District is another platform that
I
is
wouldn't consider District a
District.
platform though.
Well, it is a an avenue. It's like it's, if you considered like District to be the mall, and then within the mall there's all of these different stores. There's all
I
these
think
different
that's how they
marketplaces.
I think that's how
That
District started out. And at the event we were talking about that we just hosted where I was gone last week, district was there. Like
Yeah.
they had a district representative there that spoke, and they're trying to break out of that idea that you just expressed. That
Okay.
they're not the mall anymore. They kind of started that way.
Yeah.
District is very much trying to move in the direction of being like Shopify. They're the technology that runs the back end. The
Okay.
people building stores on top of that technology, those are the platforms. And there's a
Okay.
lot of them out there. There's
And
the dollar auction. That's one I run.
yeah.
There's places like Knickknacks and Dibdit, and like there's all kinds of different stores that run on that technology, but they're
Yes.
each their own platform. And choosing the right one for what you're selling
Yes.
is
Now,
is going to
let me ask
determine
you
a
about
lot
this
about how you do.
because we don't. I don't want this to be a commercial, but you run, Cory. You run a platform called the
Mhm.
Dollar Auction that runs
Yep.
on the it runs on the district platform, but it is
Yep.
your own marketplace. Now, and I know kind of what you're hinting at, depending on which platform you choose, makes a big difference for you.
Huge.
There is a lot of support over at, let's say, again, not a commercial, but the Dollar Auction platform. When somebody is going to sell on that live platform, they get the support of that community. They get the support
Yep.
of the owners. You yourself and the people that you run it with are going to go in, and you're going to make sure that people have an audience, that people are
Yep.
coming in, and you're going to help promote. You're going to help advertise. You want, because that person, the better that they do,
The better
that's
we
great
do.
for them. They're going to come, and the better that you do.
And I think
It's
that's the same on
which
Whatnot or any other platform. I think the big difference there is we're small and scrappy. We need
Yeah.
every seller that comes on to do good. So we're going to,
Okay.
when we see a seller jump on the platform, we're going to circle the wagons and make sure they do good because we're still small
Yeah.
enough to do that. Whatnot,
Now,
if they did that for every seller, they'd go broke hiring employees to do that. Like it's so much bigger.
yeah. Well, you're a little bit on more. I don't want to say this how it's going to. I'm not going to say this exactly how it sounds. Is yeah, Whatnot. You're a little more on your own there in your
Yep.
own marketing your stuff, but you do build relationships with people, and
Yeah.
you do get on what's called raid trains, and you do get other people that help you support, but still your little corner of the market is yours. And how it goes for you is largely on your own. Now, if you
Mhm.
can get in groups that sell either similar products, or you can get in communities and meet with
And you
people.
will over time. If you stick
Yeah.
with it, you certainly
But
will over time.
where I want to say, I guess my whole point that I want to get to is when you talk about depending on the platform, if you might have, say, more support from the Dollar Auction or from a Knickknacks or from a Didbit or something like that, that where the owners of that in that community are supporting you and getting in there as a whole. If I am starting up day one as hey, I want to do this as a side hustle, or I want to do this, I want to try to do this full time. I have zero experience at it. I know nothing about it. And I come to the Dollar Auction. I say, hey, I want to be a seller. You are so unproven at that point. Are the different uh, owners of those different marketplaces, are they going to be as willing to take a chance on you? It's like, well, I don't even know this person. They might be horrible. They might come on the air,
The
drunk. They got a
criteria to
filthy
sell,
house. They're selling broken shit.
I know what you're saying. The criteria to sell at the dollar auction is that you have a pulse. And that sounds horrible because it sounds like we'll take any seller and they're even the horrible ones.
Okay.
And that's true. We will take every seller, including the horrible ones. The difference is if you go on there and you have a show where you're chain smoking and half drunk or just being a horrible seller or not shipping, you're going to have one show.
Okay.
Because we're very quick to accept and bring you into the community and help you and circle the wagons around you to have a good show. But if you're a bad seller and the customers, we are very buyer focused. So if you're a bad seller and you're giving customers a bad experience, we're also very quick to swing the band hammer and get you out of there. Because that's and the fact that we're buyer focused should be pretty obvious. We're a dollar auction. You cannot start an auction at $2 on our site. You have to start at $1. But my very first show on Whatnot, where I didn't have community support pouring into my show,
Yeah.
had 6 people in it. It 6
Yeah.
people. That was my first show on Whatnot where I didn't have any community behind me. My very first show on the dollar auction, we had 60 people. So we're averaging between 30 and 60 people a show for people who have never sold ever before. We just had Tara on, a lady named Tara on last night, and she had 55 people in her show. It's the first live show she's ever done anywhere, and she has no social follow.
Yeah. Now, which is great for her. And that is when you talked about picking a platform and getting in there. Now, can I also say that on Whatnot, some of that was of your having 6 people in the show. Some of that was of your own doing. You didn't market. You didn't get out there. You actually decided one day, I'm going to try this live selling. And we and I discussed it. And I'm like, hey, I gave Cory the same advice. Do a private show, learn the shipping, learn the buttons. He's like, no, I want to do it now. And 2 hours later, he was live on a show. Nobody knew it was a pop-up. It just, boom, here's the, now then people started to find him, or people started to share out that show. And once you did your first one, everybody's like, wait a minute, Mr. Anti-Live Selling over here is now selling on
That's
Whatnot.
my shtick.
We want to go check this out. And then, like, say your second show was better. Your third show was dismal for you. Again, and a lot of that was, I want to say it was self-inflicted by, we're having a show tonight. Boom, let's just go live. If you did have some sort of a way to get that, the word out, some pre-show stuff with some Instagram or TikTok posts, or on your Facebook, or if you had, YouTube channel to get that
most
out
people
there.
don't
Those
have
shows,
that, though.
And that's what we're talking about here.
And that was part of why
viable side hustle.
Yeah, that was part of why I did it. And I do, like Ken knows this, I very much live by the philosophy that there's no better way to learn how to put out a fire than to light your pants on fire. Like, I just do.
True.
If I'm going to learn it, I'm going to get in it, and I'm going to learn it.
I think it's.
But you're right.
There's a whole big difference of, I just want to do a show, and I started up and I only had 6 people or whatever. And there were people that you knew and come in and bought and did those initial, let's just support, Cory in his first efforts.
And I think that's the way across all platforms.
It was most people that were in there just to say, I told you so. I knew he'd be here at live selling at some point.
To be very clear, I don't think if you just if I picked up my phone right now and just hopped on the dollar auction and I hit the button to go live and nobody knew I was going to go live, I don't think your results would vary that far from what happened on Whatnot. Because if you schedule a show for a day later or 6 hours later and we see it and we can have time to circle the wagons, yes. But if you ride so far ahead of the wagons that nobody can get around you, then that's absolutely the same on any platform.
I guess we need to kind of relate this to somebody that was looking at live selling as a potential side hustle. I like to look at it as live selling is almost a side hustle to a side hustle. It is just another avenue as side. Well, I do reselling. You do reselling as a full-time job. This is what we do to stay unemployed for a living. But
we buy undervalued stuff and sell it at a profit. That's what we do, like plain and simple. And we use multiple platforms to do it. I think live selling is just a new side of that business that I think can outgrow your original business if done right. But right now, it's just another side to my business. Like, that's how I see it.
Exactly. It's another avenue. But you have a social media following. I have a social media following. I had, the years of experience in reselling, in sourcing and buying those undervalued items and selling them higher. I had shipping experience. I have, we've been doing this. To jump right in and start the whole thing as a live selling, I'm just going to be a live seller. That's it.
Yeah.
I think is a little more difficult. Is it difficult to do? Can you be successful at it? Yes, you can. It depends on your personality. It depends on the items that you're selling. But to just start cold with no social media following, I think it's a little tougher. It's a little tougher road.
I've come around on that.
As a side hustle.
I've actually come around on that. 1000% agreed with that forever. If you're a YouTube influencer or an Instagram influencer and you go live selling and then you tell the world you should be live selling, I was always the guy in the corner saying you're an idiot. You have
Yeah.
1,000 people following you every minute of the day. Of course you can make this work. And I've
Yes.
really come around on that, mostly because I now run I run a platform with some other partners that are doing the dollar auction, that is doing live
Yeah.
selling, and I'm starting to see it from a whole new perspective now. And it's not because I want you to come sell at the dollar auction. If you want to sell at the dollarauction.com, come on over. We'll help you out. But I'm seeing brand new people that have never done a show and have no following at all have more success there than me because they have a personality. Like
Yeah.
they're good on camera and they're having a lot of
Yes.
success. And because they're getting the community around them. Now, I think you could do this on any platform. That there's a difference in how you build it. On Whatnot, if you go on
Yeah.
there, you're going to have to be very active about going into other shows and chatting with people and starting to
Yeah.
build that
It's a
following.
social
Right.
arena.
Versus on something like the dollar auction or one of the smaller platforms. If you get in and schedule your show, because they're smaller, they're probably going to be way more likely to kind of
Yeah.
circle the wagons around you anyway, because they really need you to succeed too. So
Yeah. Oh,
it's
sure.
different how
It's
you build, but I do think that new user, I think they really do. Here's the mindset switch in reselling, and you know as well as I do. What do you sell live? What is the perception of what people sell live?
the perception is that they're selling the junk, the things that they can't sell on the bigger static platforms, that they're
Do
just
you think
trying to
that's a
bump
fair
off
perception?
I think when the platforms started, and depending on the seller, yes, I think that is a uh was a
I
mindset
think
that
it
people
still
had.
is. I think it's still.
I
I think 80% it still is.
at least the people that I watch, and there's so many different, but you start to run just like in a YouTube channel or whatever social media you follow, you start to run in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really see in the circle that I run in, I don't see it that much that people are just dumping off junk. If you're trying to
I
sell
do.
junk, it's junk, and people are not selling. I'm seeing people
They
bringing
don't
better
succeed.
items, and I think being successful at the live selling, you have to bring items that
Yep.
are better, that people want, that people. I am still in the camp, though, that there are certain items that I am going to list on a static platform like an eBay or something like that, because of the value of the sell-through rate of it, that I'm not going to bring that to a live selling over to Whatnot and sell it for a fraction of the price that
And
I could get for it within
that's the
reason.
killer perception right there. That's the perception that I've had for 2 years.
Yeah.
That's the reason every time somebody brings up live selling, I crapped on it. And it's,
Yeah.
why do I want to come there, or why would I come there and sell something that I could sell for $30 on eBay if I just wait a couple weeks
Yeah.
and sell it for
Well,
possibly $1 just so I could get rid of it? And the
well,
answer in the community was always, because you can move inventory super fast. You can move it out. You
yeah.
can do bulk. Well, I don't want to do bulk $1 sales. That's not smart. That's a
It's
bad business
a lot
model.
of effort in
And
shipping.
I've come to realize recently, just in the last week or two, that's really a bad way to look at it, and you're not going to succeed doing that anyway.
Uh-huh.
What's working for the people I see it really working is, like, when we go, I sell on eBay and we buy a lot of high ticket items, and we buy in certain areas. Like, I like
Yeah.
things with buttons. I like electronics. Teresa loves her trinket boxes and stuff like that. Like, we have certain categories we like.
Yes.
I would never take a vintage tube radio that would sell for $100 on eBay and put that on Whatnot or another live selling platform
Yeah.
or the dollar auction. I would not do that. I will never do that. But when we're buying this stuff, we're buying in lots a lot of times, and I'm getting $40 t-shirts and $80
Yeah.
shoes, and I hate listing t-shirts and shoes. I'm not going to sit down and take pictures of t-shirts and shoes. I just hate it. It drives me
Yeah.
crazy. So if I can move that stuff in bulk and it's good stuff, like that $60 t-shirt, and put it on the dollarauction.com and run it, and I get $30
Yes.
for it, and it's out of my hair and I don't have to list it, That's what we're doing. And by selling good stuff, the
Yeah.
more you do that, the higher the price you're going to get for that good stuff, because people are going to come
Yeah.
say, he's starting a $60 t-shirt at $1.
Yeah.
They're going to come to the show because they know you're bringing value. So that's what I mean about when we're doing this on the dollar auction, we're very buyer focused. We want to bring
Yeah.
a good deal. I don't
Well,
want to bring, you know, like
that's
this I
what,
would probably run because it has decent value. It probably sells for 15 or 20 on eBay, but
yeah.
I don't want to bring that $4 as seen on TV thing to the dollar auction and expect that it's going to sell for anything more than $1. It never will.
But do you think the first time person that's just wanting to start this out is going to bring their $60 t-shirt in hopes that they're going to sell it for $30? And again, some of
Depending on the
that is
platform, yeah.
it depends on I'm going to look at that. And I think one of the key things that you said is if I can get this item and it's going to sell for $30 in a couple of weeks, why would I bring that and sell it for potentially $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever?
Well, you have to ask
To
yourself
me, to me, the thing is, if I look at that sell-through rate and I'm going to have an item that's going to sell relatively quickly on, let's say, eBay, that is, I'm going to list that on eBay and I'm going to get that $30 in a couple of weeks. If this item is a $30 item, if that's what it sells for, but the sell-through rate is poor, there's X number of them listed and very few solds, and it's going to take 6 months, a year, 3 months, a month, 2 months, whatever. If it's going to take that sort of a thing,
the length
I'm
of
not going to
time.
this. I'm going to bring that over. The length of time matters to me. Then, in the end, is if then I can bring an item that is a good item, and my thought process might be wrong, but this is what works for me, and I'm going to bring that item then to a whatnot, and I'm not going to start my stuff at a dollar. I'm going to start it a little bit higher. I'm going to, see if
Not
that
on the
sells.
dollar
I
auction.
do.
On whatnot.
Well, yeah, but that's your platform. Your platform is that's what you're doing. Is everything starts at $1. But if you're going to bring that over to a to the knickknacks or to a didbit or something like that, you're going to be able to start those at different
And whatever
things.
you want.
And so I am still basing that, but I'm trying to bring good stuff. The people that I have seen do well on whatnot and that are really growing and are selling a lot and they get big audiences and they do stuff are the people that are not. They're bringing everything. And just like you said, as you start to sell more, people are going to go, oh, wait, this guy over here is selling really good stuff and I can get it at a really good value, regardless of the starting price.
If there's bargains, you'll get buyers.
Yes. And that's what, but we're now kind of getting into more of the platforms themselves and how to sell and not can somebody do this as a side hustle.
Completely separate of it. If you're going to do it as a side hustle, I think you really have to get out of the item specific mindset where we're talking about a lot of that right now. I have a $30 item. Am I going to run it on a platform and start it at $1 and be okay with it selling for $1?
Or start it at $5 or $10?
And be okay with it selling for that. Most times, if you're selling a decent item, that's a hang up point for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't want this to sell for $5. It's a $30 item.
Yeah.
And I think the way I've gotten myself out of that mindset is when we build a show, we'll go get 40, 50 items.
Yeah.
We put them in a pile and we say, what would we like to make for this? This is what we paid for all these items. This is my buy-in cost.
Yeah.
And then we run the show. And at the end of the show, we look at what sold in total and look at it as an overall show. Some of those $30 items are going to sell for $3.
Yeah.
Some of those $5 items are going to sell for $25. So if you're looking at it as a whole show and get out of the individual item mindset, your shows feel a lot better and they're more successful. And at the end of the day, you made the same amount of money.
Again, it's goes back to it's all in the buy of that. If you've bought the right, I look at things doing this job, being unemployed for a living. I think there's a big difference. Said this a number of times in leaving money on the table and putting food on the table. Okay. If you are on any live selling platform and you are if you're buying whatever, if you're buying $2 items and selling them for $5, there's a profit there. If you're buying them for $5 and selling them for $2, you're doing something wrong.
And that'll happen
Is
sometimes.
at the end of the day is, did I make a profit on that item? Then the mindset is, did I make as much as I could, which is the leaving money on the table, and then the selling the item where I made a profit on it.
See, you're back at
That's
the
putting
item.
food on the table.
You're back at the individual item again, though, because and I think that's what breaks my mind when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's what keeps me reserved about it, is when I start looking at individual items. I had to stop doing
and
that.
I agree. And I agree with that, because I do look at the show as a whole, because some things go for, it's like, damn, I wish that would have sold for a little more because it had more value. And then the next item that you weren't even expecting to sell that well. Oh, I'm going to throw these ones in the show. They're good items. They're like items. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, 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 boom. There's a bid and that goes up. And at the end of the night, what was my buy costs on everything and what was my sell costs on everything? But again, we're kind of talking more. We're kind of talking more.
I have one more point on that
strategies.
I want to make.
Yes.
If we go out and buy, Barbies or something, say we go out and buy a box of Barbies.
Yeah.
Are you the type of person that's going to be okay with, maybe they came in a lot with other stuff you wanted and you just have them? Are you going to be the kind of person that's okay with, if you want to, there's a $40 Barbie in there. Are you going to throw it in a tote and de-ionize it and get the smell out of it? Are you going to fix the hair and brush the hair out and put it back and then find the outfit for it? Are you going to do the work to clean that thing up for a $40 Barbie? Or are you going to take that Barbie and run it on an auction for somebody else that might do that work and be okay selling it possibly at $1, but it's gone and you didn't spend 4 hours fixing it and cleaning it? There's a lot of that going on in ours too. The type of stuff we choose to sell on there is the type of stuff that shirts, shoes, certain kinds of items that we don't like to list. We will let go, even though they're expensive items, because I don't want to spend the time on them. I don't enjoy listing those type of items.
You can pass that along if you bought it right. You can pass that along. And again, it's not an inferior item. It's just something that you're not going to spend the time to do. It is a good item that moves along. But I want to make sure that people understand, because when you reference it, the only thing that we can do on this show is reference things from our experience or reference things from stuff that we've researched, like when we don't know about fixing a screen door or one of the other deep dives that we've done.
This is a hot topic, by the way, folks. This is a polarizing topic, even between Ken and I.
People that understand, each time that you reference it, you say, I'm going to start this at $1. I'm going to start this at $1. I'm going to sell this $40 item at $1. Not every live selling platform, you do not have to start stuff at $1. Now, if you are at your particular site, your business model that you've built that is being successful and is growing very quickly for you,
we're built for the buyer.
We're starting at $1. That's here. But I just don't want people to think that, oh, now I've got all these items around the house, I have to start. I did a very successful show for us on Whatnot platform a couple weeks ago, that we were selling purses, different mid-range fashion and purses, a little bit better names, not your high-end luxury purses by any means. Excuse me. But I was doing $10 starts. I was doing $10 starts. Now, I sold a number of them at the $10, but as you get into some of the other names and the brands and the styles, and we tried to do things that were like spring type of purse related, I was getting $12, $15, $20, $25 bids on these purses, and we sold out that show. And I started them at $10.
Yeah, now, for me personally,
that was in the buy cost. A lot of those were worth a lot more, even the highest value that they went for. They were worth a lot more than that, but I had a very good buy cost.
As a buyer, and speaking strictly, take the reseller out of it. As a buyer, I'm 100 times more likely to come in and bid an item up starting at $1 than I am one starting at $10. Well, I've been into so many Whatnot shows where people were starting things at 50% of the retail value, that's a good deal, 50% of the retail value. But you roll in there into a live auction and they're starting at 50% of the retail value. There's a lot of people, me included, who my immediate reaction is fly a kite. I'm gone. I
Well,
will not start at 50% of the
okay.
retail value.
Let me say something about that though. And the reason is, why is that, Cory? Why is that? You tell me why that is.
If you think it's
You don't
because I'm
know.
buying to resell it and I'm looking for
Because
margins, you're
you're a
wrong.
reseller. You're a reseller.
I'm cheap.
Well, you're cheap. You are cheap. But
do you think that's
if
different for a normal buyer? A buyer, if they come in and see you starting at 10 or me starting the same item at $1, as a buyer, are you happier and more likely to bid on the one starting at $1?
if we were side by side and we had the exact same item, if
Yep.
we had the exact same item side by side, would I start at the dollar? Certainly I would. And
But I'm
most
saying,
likely,
just
certainly
in
because I'm
general,
cheap.
are you more likely as a buyer
But
to,
that's
to
where
engage and get into the bidding starting at $1 or starting
Yes.
at 10?
at $1.
And there is one
you
thing
are
about
not-
auctions
that now that's the
you'll learn
mentality
is
of your thing.
once you're bidding and other people are bidding against you, you get caught up in the auction and you're more likely to keep bidding. So we're not
Yes.
seeing, because we start at the dollar, it's important, we're not seeing lower sell prices. We had a pocket knife. There was a $20 pocket knife the other day on one of Steve and Donna's show, sell for like $41. Like you're not getting lower sell prices because you're starting at $1. It's just some items might go for the dollar.
Exactly.
So if you look at it on a show level, the shows are doing phenomenal.
Also looking at, I'm attracting buyers. The stuff that I was selling then, I was getting more buyers that were buying the stuff than I was resellers. Well, I know, but it's a different strategy, and that's we're kind of getting into that strategy of the selling and where you start and where you do stuff. I can't complain. I sold out my show starting at that amount because I had people that were buying the items because they wanted them and not because they were necessarily going to try to resell. Not that everybody that's on the starting at the dollar bid is reselling, but I'm trying to.
We have a very good audience of just buyers.
Yeah, we're trying to. It's almost like we're getting into a.
Just to be very clear,
strategies.
Ken is a whatnot guy, and I am so not a whatnot guy. And I think there is some of that battle of the platforms that happens, and I think that's where some of the friction is. Everybody's kind of defending their platform a little bit, but I do think that if you're going to sell something on there, I don't think there's anything wrong with starting it at $10. I don't think there is.
Yeah.
But I think from a buyer perspective, you're much more likely to engage and get into the bidding war starting at $1 than you are at 10. And we are, at least on my platform, we're very focused on the buyer, not the seller. We're
talking strategies. I guess where we need to get back to get wrapped up is this a viable, what's the scalability of it? What is it a viable, what's your time expenditure? If you were going to start this, any business is going to be as successful as the amount that you put into it.
Yep.
And
running a show is exhausting.
And it is. And in this platform, the live selling arena, it's the consistency, the being on to running shows, show after show. Sure, you can come on and just run one show and be done and sell some stuff and that's it. You could be done. If you are trying to grow it as a true side hustle or maybe even grow into a full-time thing, you have to be consistent with shows. You have to build that following.
And you have to bring valuable items.
And you have to bring good stuff to it. Potential profit on something like this, that's one of our criteria when we look at these things, is the profit is in the buy. It's where you're buying stuff. It's what the bids. So there's really not a number that you can put on that because I don't know what you buy stuff at, or I don't know what you just acquire. If you're buying storage units of stuff, the buy cost is very minimal on each individual item. If you're going out and onesie twosie picking stuff up at yard sales and flea markets and stuff, it's a harder way to source.
That's a good point. I've said, and I still stand by that, I would never source for live selling. Like I don't source for live selling at all. and I can't see myself doing it.
Uh,
I hate to say never because you never know, but I don't see myself sourcing for live selling. I source
yeah,
for eBay, but if you source for reselling in any fashion, you're going to buy in bulk. You're going to have items that you
yeah,
don't want to sell on eBay, that you don't want to list or deal with. You're going to get items that are great for live selling.
yes,
So I don't source specifically for live selling. I know a lot of people do and they do well, but they have to be very intentional about
yeah,
buying at like Goodwill bins price. Like you got to buy it at
yeah.
next to nothing.
And I'm the same way when I'm out sourcing for stuff. I am looking for those bigger ticket items or those things that have good sell through rates on
Mhm.
like an eBay. But if I'm there and I see like, a bulk lot of something at a sale, or if I'm doing, I'm going to group those up to get a better price. But yeah, I'm never intentionally at a yard sale or an estate sale or something specifically sourcing for a live show,
No,
because in a live show, you're not selling 5 or 10. If you bring 5 or 10 items, you might sell them, but then the show's over. People don't get to see stuff. You got to have a number of items available for that one show. And if you brought 50 items to the show and you sold out, um, you got to have 50 more to do your next show, because we talked about being
right.
consistent and being
Yep.
on. If you are using this side hustle, um, to make money, as to supplement an income, if you could do it as a one-off if you had good support in a community and enough people at your show, almost like a yard sale at your house. You don't have to set it up out in the
Yep.
driveway. You could sell, because at your garage sale, you're gonna mark stuff at 50 cents, a dollar, $5, whatever,
Well, there are
and
there
you're
are
just trying to get rid of it.
there are platforms that are doing like fairly regular organized what they call a raid train, where
Yeah.
somebody will get on and they'll run a big show and they'll get 50, 60, 80 people, whatever. And then
Yes.
they'll turn that audience over into the next show. So if you're on a
Yes.
platform that's doing regular raid trains that you could just sign up for, that you could just jump into,
Yes.
which is like on ours, if you want to be in one, you just say it in the chat and they'll get you on one. So if you're
Yeah.
just doing it like a garage sale, it's kind of like planning your garage sale for when they're doing a community sale. You're going to get more
Yeah.
customers that way, and you can
Yes.
just do that.
That's a very good way to do that. So I think, overall, I guess if we sum this all up, Cory, as a new person that has been hearing a lot about live selling, maybe you haven't heard anything about live selling at all, and this is the first introduction that you've had
Sorry,
to it.
this had to be your intro to it.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to, I do want to give a shout out though. If you're in this far, if you want to hear a little more about live selling and how things going, we have a friend, Brian and Tracy over at Jack's Treasures. If you go on
They have
YouTube,
a podcast.
to Jack's Treasures, they have a podcast that focuses on live selling. Uh, it's called What? Not Another Reselling Podcast. It's a great show. They kind of explore a little bit more individual topics about live selling. You
Yep.
might be able to pick up some information there. They will shout out some different sellers that are on there of different levels. They try to get the people that are
It
brand
is
new. They try to
very
get the mid tier.
it's a good podcast. I was actually a guest on it, and so was Ken once. So and
Yes,
they're very knowledgeable with live selling.
yes,
It is very whatnot heavy. Like
it is.
most of and it has to be because that's where their experiences are, and they're very successful over there. So
Yeah,
just keep
what
that in
they're
mind. It is very biased towards the whatnot platform.
it's yeah, but there are several choices in the different. But I don't know. So Cory, would you say that this is a good starting out? No social media following, no you just like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'd like to pop on and sell my stuff live because I have a great personality. Is this a good side hustle?
I think it can be depending on your expectations. As a side hustle, just for some extra income every week, I think you could do very well uh, on probably on the smaller platforms. The larger platform has a much higher ceiling if you want to scale this thing. I think
Yeah,
if you're on a platform like Whatnot, you have a much higher ceiling, much harder to get the ball rolling. But
yeah.
as a side hustle, yeah, I think if your expectations are make a few extra, maybe a couple $100 a month, I think this is definitely viable.
Okay. And my take, I think it would be, I think it's a little bit there. Like I said, it doesn't take a lot to learn the platforms. I think it's going to be a little more of a build and a little more of a struggle if you were just starting out. If you're starting out dry, if your base, you can build anything for sure. I'm going to say, is it the thing that you want to jump into right away? I talked about it's a side hustle to a side hustle, and that's I guess it's really not a side hustle to, it's just another avenue, another way to sell stuff. So yeah, I maybe not on my end. Is it, that's, I didn't really answer any questions there. It works well for me because I have that experience. I have the in the shipping and in the buying and selling items, as you do, Cory. You had that. This is much easier for us because we have that experience. We have that social media following. But if we had none of that, if we had no buying experience, no shipping experience, no social media following other than, friends and your family and that sort of stuff, it's a slow build. Is it possible?
I think you have to take all those things 100% into account when you're choosing your platform.
Yeah.
I do. I think all those things you just mentioned should determine the platform you use, because there's going to be pros and cons of both. And if you don't have a social media platform, you're just going to jump in day one. If you're not planning on building and being consistent, I wouldn't recommend Whatnot. If it was just Whatnot in the mix, I would say no. This is not viable as a side hustle with no following.
Yeah,
it is viable to build into a decent side hustle. It's not viable to just jump on and do it without committing fully on Whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. And that's with any side hustle. If you're not going to jump in, if you're not just doing that one weekend sale of stuff, if you're looking to find something to consistently bring money into your account, whether it is to help supplement bills, whether it's to help with you making your living, it's
I do want to say it almost sounds like I'm promoting the dollar auction when I'm saying not Whatnot or the dollar auction. Those are not your only two choices. Those are there are a lot of very specific platforms that are running on the district software, and they're tailored to different types of things. If you sell cards, there's platforms just for cards. If you sell shirts, there's platforms just for shirts. If you go on one of those smaller platforms, if you're just starting out and you're not going to commit to making this a grind and doing it long term, you're going to do much better on any of those small platforms than you will Whatnot. 10 out of 10 times you will do better over there.
Yeah. All right. We'll take that.
And you don't like that.
Well, no, I have no dog in the fight as far as platforms are concerned.
I don't either. I'm just trying to give unbiased.
I have my own channel on the Whatnot live selling platform that I advertise. I do sales. I get in those raid trains and stuff like that. So but whether you go to this platform or that platform doesn't affect me one way or the other. I don't, that doesn't bother me.
Loyalist.
Oh no, I'm not a loyalist. I like the platform.
Whatnot people get touchy, guys.
That's okay. All right. Everybody have a good week. We'll see you next time on the Unemployed for a Living podcast. Have a good week, Cory.